Okay, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me here today. So I do a short introduction. On the right side, no, when you're looking at the screen, on the right side, my name is Paddy Tan, Paddytan. You can probably find me in LinkedIn, and I'm actually the managing partner of Blackstorm. Blackstorm itself is based in Singapore. We have office in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and even Taiwan. Very quickly, this is also my email contact, paddy@blackstormco.asia. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me because I may not be able to answer all the private questions that are sent to me. Okay, so the topic today is about how to start a startup. Well, as much as it seems that to be easy, I think the biggest challenge that a lot of people have is that the kind of background that we have may make it difficult and sometimes challenging for some of us. Okay, why do I say that? Say, for example, you have been an employee your whole life. Okay, to run a startup is very different from so-called running a business. Some folks will always think of isn't startup the same as just setting up a company? In fact, it's not. Okay, why? Because when you're running a startup, it simply means that you're actually running very, very fast. You test out the system, you test out your product. Will it work? Will it not work? If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you pivot immediately. And when you're talking about running a business, yes, there's a lot of schemes, financial schemes that are available. Maybe you can look into getting a loan from the banks and stuff like that. But when you're talking about running a startup, the methods of gaining money, gaining funds and grants and all these are a bit different. Example, it's very common that you want to get investment. You'll probably get an investment from your friends, from your parties, from your contacts, or what we know as the 3F, friends, families, and maybe even fools. So running a startup usually depends not just your capability, but also putting a group of people in who believe in the directions of the business. And then some of you guys will be running it on the sales side. Some of you guys will be looking into the R&D, and then eventually reach a certain stage where some investors or angel investors or even VC or family office put in some money and invest in you, and in returns, they own shares of your company. And from there, you progressively continue until the day that you probably either sell your company or you exit the company. So all these are probably some other topics that we'll cover, but today we'll start off with a very fundamental, how to start a startup. Okay, so first and foremost, before we start, anything, we always have to have a checklist. Here's the thing, running a startup, if everybody is telling you it seems to be easy, it seems to be, everybody's making millions of dollars, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't work this way. In fact, it actually, all the more, it's actually more complicated than that. Okay. So, okay, let's say, for example, start with a checklist. So number one, first and foremost, before you even run the startups, you always have to ask yourself, how to develop a clear and concise value propositions. Okay, the first thing that we have to understand, developing is one. But when you talk about value propositions, each of us define value proposition very differently. That means that what is valuable to you may not be valuable to someone else. So you always have to ask yourself, when you talk about developing a clear and concise value propositions, it doesn't mean that today you develop one of them, one value propositions, and these value propositions will stay forever. In fact, it is not. So when you're running a startup, always have to understand a clear and concise value proposition should fit into the very person who pays you, the very person who wants to use your service. This also means that, okay, whatever that you're launching here, let's say in Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, whatever, it may not be necessarily the same when you bring this to another market. So the value propositions in Singapore may be very different from the value propositions in Malaysia or in Thailand. So this is the part that you always have to understand, that it may not be so straightforward. Okay. Number two, research your target market and competitions. Again, similar to number one, your market may change, competitions may change. Let's say, for example, due to whatever reasons, the market that you have been targeting, because of a certain rules, certain laws, or maybe a new government comes in, okay, they may actually make it redundant. That means that the market that you've been entering may be very different. Let me give you an example. Like during the pandemic, some businesses did very well, but the moment the pandemic was over, they continue the way it is, thinking that, hey, it may actually continue as it is. But sad to say, market changes. People start to look into different things. And when that happens, you may have to research your markets again and again. Okay, create a business plan. When you create a business plan, it's going to be very different of what kind of business plan should you actually put in, because a business plan may be very different from what you started versus what you plan to execute. Okay, number four, choose a legal structure for your business. Okay, each of the markets may have a very different legal structure. So always understand what kind of format are you doing it. Okay, an example, like an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Some companies, when you are based in, let's say in US, when you release an NDA, you will probably want it to be following your local law. But whereas some companies that are signing with you, they may not want it to be of such. So this is why you need to understand what kind of legal structures are you following. Like for example, in certain countries, they actually follow the Commonwealth law. That means they follow it strictly, and then any others, they do not follow it. So that why, in case of any dispute, they can actually make it much easier for you to decide what kind of framework do you want to fall back on, and what kind of lawyer do you want to hire. Number 5, register your business with appropriate state and federal agencies. Okay, so here's the thing. When you register a company, register your business, always have to understand that it's not so straightforward. Yes, for countries like Singapore, if you are Singaporeans, you can probably register a company within a day or two. You can probably quickly, almost immediately, you can actually start operating it. But it may not be the same when it comes to different countries. Like when it comes to different countries, let's say, for example, in Thailand, if you are foreigners, you want to open a company in Malaysia directly or in Thailand directly, there is always a certain rules that actually prevent you from doing it, okay, on the spot. Okay, so there are also things that you actually have to follow immediately. So this is where the part of registering your companies, always get your local companies, local entities to be registered properly on that. Okay, another thing is that number 6, set up your business finances. This is very important. So let's say, for example, in the case of Singapore, when let's say you run a company and then you decided to sell it. So now when you are going to sell it, then you have to ask yourself, is there actually any capital gain tax? Is there anything that probably that you did not set it up properly? So if you did not set it up properly, it will actually create a lot of problem. Okay, so that's why setting up your business finances is always important. From what I just shared, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can actually talk to the folks that are in the market that you want to enter to, talk to the consultants or talk to the advisors or even talk to the mentor. Always find out exactly what you need before you set up a company. Number 7, 8, and 9, this is quite straightforward. Number 7, you always need to build a team. Okay, it is very rare for anyone who start a startup, okay, on your own, and then eventually run it on your own and eventually scale it and go into another market on your own. So that's why there's always a need to build a team. Typically in the team, you will need 3 types of people. Okay, the one who sell, the one who build, and then the one who runs it. Okay, so these 3 types of people, of course, you can always expand. The one who sell, you got a great product, but you must have people who knows how to sell. Okay, and you must have people who knows how to build. Because when you're building a product or building a company, this person or this team of people must know exactly how to run it, how to operate it. And then eventually you must have someone who knows how to run it also. Run it, operating it, selling it. It can be one single person when you first started, but eventually you need to build a team so that instead of you spending 24 hours on it, you can probably have 3 or 4 persons and then spread out the 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours per person per team. Okay, number 8, develop your product or service. Okay, bottom line here is that when you develop your product or service, you have to understand not all the product or services are suitable in the market that you are in yourself. Okay, you may have experience that you think that, hey, there is actually a niche, but that niche, if someone is not willing to pay for it, their product, it does not go very far. Number 9, you need to create a marketing and sales plan. Okay, this is very important, especially if you have the background of being a tech guy or you have a background of being a product guy, and you may not actually understand how to sell. Okay, let's say, example, if you were to do a pitch, if your focus is on focusing on the function and the feature of the product, nothing wrong. But if the audience is wrong, that means whatever that you're selling, it may not meet the wants and the needs of the one who is going to invest in you or the one who's going to buy your product. This is most important. So that's why if you're someone who is actually from a technical background or from the product background, try to attend pitches, try to see demo days and see how they sell. If the focus is on functions or on features, good for you. But you have to know that the audience have to be there to be able to understand what are you looking at. Number 10, launch your business. Okay, why I put this as a number 10? Because as a startup founder, we can think thousands of things in our head. But if you never launch your company, you never launch your business, you will never know where are you, where do you stand, and how do you even navigate or even pivot your business. So my take here is launch your business, figure it out, make mistake, and then keep adjusting and adjusting. Okay, so those are the checklists. So now let me give you some numbers. Okay, I'm not going to read one by one. You can look at these are some of the informations that I gathered from the research from internet and everything. Okay, internet down, is it? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It was down. Let me just check what happened. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, probably only fans running at the background. Okay, so let me run it through. Okay, so typically, like for example, on the top right, you can see that Southeast Asia has produced 52 unicorns. Each of the startups actually valued at over 1 billion. Okay. So here's the thing, there are a lot of numbers, okay, and target at Southeast Asia. Some of you folks may not be coming from Southeast Asia, but the trend here is, okay, there have been a lot of companies shifting over to Southeast Asia, and it's booming. It's really booming. Southeast Asia is not easy, but definitely it's also a very exciting market for a lot of companies. Okay, in fact, fintech, e-commerce, and logistics are really the more popular startup industries. The typical failure rates of running a startup is often quoted as over 90%, but this is actually not entirely true. Like just like I mentioned, lots of people keep thinking that startups actually fail, more than 97% or more. Okay, the truth of the matter here is that in the startup ecosystem, there's always a lot of saying. Okay, so here's a fact. Okay, actually the most reliable data shows that the failure rate of a startup is actually not that high. It's probably only about 20% in the first year. So when we talk about 20% of the first year, so what does it really mean? It probably means that you have not really actually start going and start running the company, but a lot of them are planning. In fact, it is actually very common for startup, okay? They are in stealth mode, preparing for the first year. And then only when they are more confident, then they start to launch it and they start to raise funds. So when that happens, the percentage actually increases tremendously, okay? How many startups that you know of actually still around on the 5th year? How many startups that you know of are actually still on the 10th year? Okay, it really depends, okay? And so this also means that while the failure rate for startup is high, it's definitely not as high as 90%. So for anyone who actually wants to run the startups, first and foremost, the first 6 to 12 months is always important because this is where you build your fundamental, you build your foundation. Okay, so these are some of the sources that I quoted from on the numbers that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now let's jump straight into it. Why is it important to know how to start a startup? Okay, first and foremost, it's important because if you know how to start a startup, it actually increases the chance of success. The definition of success is important because if you do not know the chances of success, how are you going to actually measure it? Because if you cannot measure it, you can't really raise funds from investors. Investors who want to invest in you, they will have to know from 0 to 1, how long does it take? What does 1 means to them? If they were to put in $1 to you, what does this $1 going to be spent on? What does it matter? How does it matter? Because at the end of the day, it's important to know how to start a startup because you can actually look into how to build a strong team. When we talk about strong team, again, it is by definitions. Let's say, for example, your core team may be based in Philippines, but the market that you are selling to may not be in Philippines, maybe in Hong Kong. So this also means that when you talk about a strong team, it simply means that you must have a strong team, perhaps in Philippines, to do development. But perhaps you need a stronger team that sells in Hong Kong because that is where your target audience are. Okay, and at the same time, why do you need to know how to run a startup, how to start a startup is also, you must know how to launch your product or service successfully. This is very important because if you do not know how to launch it, it is just like a lot of people that we know that we mentor before. A lot of them just thought of, let me spend most of my time, most of my money, most of my resources building a perfect product. By the time I come up with a perfect product, let me go out to the market and the market will respond. Truth to be told, the market will not respond. Why? Because there are a lot of new products that are launched every single day. Okay, when you're sleeping, the other side of the world launching new products. And when they are sleeping, here in this part of the world, there are new products being launched also. So if you do not know how to start a startup, it is actually a waste of money, a waste of resources if you make it wrong immediately. Okay, all this will actually cost you a lot of money, and especially if you are taking money from investors. Okay, so now, what is the purpose of a startup? Okay, there are plenty of reasons. I listed here a couple of them. First, some of them want to put it as the purpose of your startup is you want to make a difference. So take note, what kind of difference? It is important, okay, to answer this very truthfully to yourself. If one day you say, hey, I want to launch my startup with a new product that will help to save the world. Sure, nothing wrong with that. But question here is, how will it save the world? How will it make a difference? Is there any other similar products? Is there any other similar services? Is your differences big enough, okay, for someone to buy from you? Is the differences big enough for someone to invest in you? Okay. Or another one is you want to build something from scratch. When you talk about build something from scratch, what is that for? Okay, we may not be talking about necessarily have to be building a company to sell. You may just want to have a sense of achievement. You want to build something from the ground. But here's the thing, to build something from scratch, then the definition of scratch, that means coming from ground zero up, or maybe you can actually build a few different tools and put them all together. That can be something of your purpose also. Or another one is to learn and grow as an individual, as a company, as a team. Because there are actually folks who started their own startup, but not with the sole purpose of making money, with the sole purpose of discovering themselves. If that is the case, you want to discover what you can and what you can't do, good for you. But is that the purpose? Then you have to be very clear about what is the whole purpose of a startup. Okay, of course, naturally, number 4 is probably the most common one, the potential to earn a high income. High income can be you build it up, you don't get any salary for the longest time, and then eventually you have a huge payout when you sell your company. That can be potentially one of your biggest drive. Or maybe you just want to build equity, or like the last one, to build a legacy for your children or even for your grandchildren. There are actually a lot. Okay, when we talk about startup, a lot of people always think of startup as hey, this startup usually is probably for some kids just fresh out from a school, and then they want to start they have a dream, they want to fulfill the dream, they start, get a startup, get a couple of $1 million, and then they start. It may not necessarily be true. There are actually a lot of folks like me, around your 50 years old, 60 years old, they actually want to build a legacy. That means that they've been working for 30, 40 years, and eventually they want to come out and start their own business, to build a legacy, to build something that may actually change the world, that may actually provide some comfort to their kids, or maybe even to build something that they want to be reminded of. Okay, so now 1 and 2 we covered. The ones are quite fast. So now let's jump into the more serious one. Basically, when you run the startup, there are actually 4 key areas that we have to take note of. Whether you plan to run your own startup, you plan to join your startup, okay, or you just having this idea of, should I actually look into the startup? Good for you. But these are the 4 key areas that you have to identify almost immediately. Number 1, how to come up with a great idea that solves a real problem. Okay, so this is a method that always, when we were training some of the companies, some of the clientele, all of us have a lot of ideas. All of us have a lot of ideas every day. Okay, nothing wrong with that. The problem with a lot of ideas is that how many of them are actually executable. So I always share with them is that if today you have an idea and the idea is great at the moment, write it down. Okay, sleep on it. If 24 hours from the time that you thought that this is a great idea, and 24 hours later, and you are still very excited about it, then explore. Okay, because if it's not an idea that you get excited about it, can you imagine after 24 hours, you forgot about it, you're not excited about it, how in the world are you going to run it for the next few years? How in the world are you probably going to run it when there are some challenges? If the idea is great enough, you will know it. You will want to put your whole, want to put everything on the stop and then try to find a solutions to the great idea. If the idea is not important enough, 24 hours later, if you forgot about it, be it. That means it's not a very good idea to begin with. But that doesn't mean that it's not a great idea today. It may be a great idea yesterday, but it may not be for today, or it may not be even in the future. Because why? Having an idea, but do not have a real problem to solve it, nobody is going to pay for it. It is simple as it is. It is a very simple situation. Example, one of the most common ideas that a lot of people came to us is, hey, I want to print T-shirts. Okay, sure. Why? Because almost everybody need T-shirts. Everybody wear T-shirts, and some people want to be very individual about it. They want to put some messages on the shirts. Sure, but it's a great idea. But is it a real problem? Could someone actually just go to Printify? If someone can just go to any of the online shops, put up their design, your Canva, whatever, just drag and drop, and then they print out the T-shirts. So if that is the case, is your idea great enough for someone to actually come to you? If the idea is not great enough for someone to come to you, it means that you probably have to spend a lot of money trying to market it, telling yourself that this is a great idea where someone will want to buy from you. If that is the case, then you probably face a lot of challenges to try to sustain the business. Okay, so this is the thing that I just covered. So what is the problem that you're passionate about solving? What is the size of the market of your solutions? How will you make money? A, B, C, as much as it's important, personally, I will always say start out with C. How will you make money? I'm a very practical man, I'm a very pragmatic guy. Because the thing is that if the business is based on the idea, you want to save the world, based on the idea, you want to go to space. But if you cannot make money, you can't fund the business. If you cannot fund the business, means that you cannot hire the people, you can't have a place, to do your business. If you cannot hire people, you cannot create products. Okay, and then this also means that it may actually not be big enough for you to target a market that is probably already there or probably a market that is new. So the ideas itself have to take into considerations of how do you make money first. Because as much as you may be passionate doesn't mean that you can still make money, doesn't mean that the idea can be actually converted into a business. I may be very passionate about swimming, but I think the basic fundamental is I have to keep myself afloat so that I will not, or I won't drown, so that I can actually pick up, probably some other frog star, freestyle, whatever swimming, so that I can actually, sustain myself. The next one is actually products. How to turn your products into a product that people want to use. Okay, so there's a saying. Okay, the one who pay for it may not necessarily be the one to use it. The one who use it may not be necessarily the person to pay for it. So let me give you a very simple example. If you happen to be a parent, you bring your kids to McDonald's. Think of it. You are probably the one who pay for it, pay for the burger with the Happy Meal toy. And the kids will probably focus not so much on the fries, not so much on ice cream. They probably focus on the toys first. So that toy itself is actually a lure for you to pay extra to get a Happy Meal, but yet at the same time, so-called a free toy. So this also means that how do you really turn an idea into a product that people want to use? So is McDonald's trying to sell you a burger, or is a McDonald's trying to sell a toy? So it depends on where are you looking at. But bottom line here is they manage to get you to step into the restaurants. The moment they manage to get you to step into the restaurants, the options for you to buy things increases tremendously. Just like Starbucks. If you enter into Starbucks, if you are just there for a cup of coffee, personally, I don't feel Starbucks is the best place to have a cup of coffee. But if you are there to sit, with environments for you to have a call, for you to make, do some work, yeah, probably that will be the place to be. So this also means that when you talk about a product, how are you going to get a product that someone is willing to use and is willing to pay for it? Because if anyone who wants to use your product, first and foremost, what are the features and benefits of your product? Okay, let's say, for example, some of you could probably know what's the difference between you sitting in Starbucks, okay, and sitting in some other unknown cafe. maybe something that is, a brand that is a local brand, but it's not an international brand. There can be a lot of benefit and there can be a lot of features. Example, if you're in Starbucks, probably Wi-Fi. So you can say, hey, Patty, but the other cafe also have Wi-Fi. Sure, nothing wrong with it. But maybe some Starbucks are well known for very stable internet Wi-Fi. They probably give you up to 60 minutes, up to 90 minutes for it. But probably some other cafe, they don't do it that way. Or probably they even, when you're seated at the Starbucks, the positioning has been, I'm in Starbucks. Okay, I'm in the trend. Something like this. It can be a feature by itself. Okay, then also another thing that you have to ask yourself, how do you make your product stand out? I think this is very, very important. Okay, a lot of people always think that, hey, if I have the perfect product, the customers will come, the clientele will come. Okay, truth to be told, the definition of perfect is subjective. Okay, example, my mom will always say that I'm handsome, but the truth to be told is, no, I'm not. But from a mom perspective, it's my son. I give birth to him. So he's always handsome in front of her. But the truth of the matter here is that you cannot just based on these assumptions and then go to the market and try to sell yourself. Okay. So when you want to make your product stand out, you have to understand what are your competitors doing. Okay. First and foremost, the easiest way is what are your competitors not doing? Okay. It's easy to study what are your competitors doing, but it is difficult to find out what are your competitors not doing. Because if your competitors are not doing certain things, can you, when you launch a startup, can that be a deciding factor that you can actually beat them to their game? If your competitors, let's say, for example, your competitors are not going around doing certain promotion in a certain location, question is why? And if you were to do it in that locations, will you get an advantage or you actually put yourself as a disadvantage? Let's say, especially if you're going up against a giant, okay, you will know that the giant will probably have a lot of money to do research, lots of money to do survey, and they probably already find out what may sell and what may not sell. So while this may be an opportunity to you, it may not be an opportunity if you assume that this is an opportunity for you to go there and sell without understanding why your competitors are not doing exactly what you thought they should be doing. You get what I'm saying? Okay, another thing is that how will you get people to use a product? Okay, my take is always this way. If you are selling a product that is physical, there's always disadvantage, meaning that you want to get your product from A to B, you probably have to get through logistics. You probably have to go through licensing. You probably have to go through tests and checks whatsoever. Okay, nothing wrong with that. As long as you can cover the cost and put all of it into it so that we can get product A to product B. Okay, product A to go from point A to point B. And then how do you get product B to go from point A to point B, but can you do it digitally? Okay, so always think of it this way, because a lot of companies always think of, if I want to have a physical product, first and foremost, how do I get it? Because this can actually kill you, okay? Especially if you are going to talk about manufacturing products. Not many factories are able to produce in small quantity. And if you're not able to produce in large quantity, you cannot bring the price down. And when you can't bring the price down, you cannot fight against your competitors. Okay, let's go to the other one. Teams. This is especially important. How to build a team of talented people who are passionate about your mission. Okay, so just like I mentioned, you can have folks who can actually sell. You can have folks who actually build. You can have folks who can actually operate, run it, or whatsoever. The thing here is that how to build a team of talented people. If you are the CEO or you're the founder who started the whole entire thing, you have to understand each and every one of us, we can build up a number of years of talent, a number of years of experience, but judging talents is just based on what we already learned, what we already know. This means that we will be biased by identifying what may be talent to you, but may not necessarily be a talent to others. Okay, so how do you differentiate? Okay, so this is a discovery journey that you have to find out. First and foremost, find out what are you not good in. Okay, before you start going out to build a team, look for people who are passionate about your mission. You have to understand what are you not good in, because there is really no point for you to get people in who happens to be your good friends. okay, who happens to be someone that you work with or who happen to share a lunch with you, but the skill set do not match. Okay, my suggestion, other than the A, B, and C, my suggestion is always look at yourself first. Because if you are going to be the one to drive the business, you have to ask yourself, okay, what are you not good in? Because if you are not good in certain things, then naturally you have to decide what are you good in, that in so much that you do not need a talent, but not enough, okay, for you not to hire. So let me just repeat again, in case it sounds a bit confusing. Let's say, for example, me, I'm very bad in operations. So that means that anything that involves claims, involve writing, involve a whole bunch of other things that got to do paperwork and everything, it's going to be very difficult for me. I will not, okay, try to do it myself. So to me, is I will look for a team member who can actually help me to identify the best tool, help me in what he or she is very strong in on the operational side, so that I can go out to sell, I can go out to be the BD, I can be the one to go out to do the strategy. Okay, so this also means that it is also important to identify what you are not good in today and what you may not be good in tomorrow. Yes, a lot of skill set can be learned. Okay, nothing wrong with it. But the thing is that when you're running a startup, the thing is the pace is you are actually fighting, you are chasing against time. Okay, so when you're chasing against time, you have to understand that you are not able to slowly identify and then pick things up along the way. So it is always better to decide straight away, I'm not good in operations. I will probably need someone who can come in to do this and that, so that I can quickly just gel it together and build as a team, and then we can go out. Okay. B, how will you attract and recruit, okay, talent, top talent? Okay, I think the first thing that we have to understand is that bee to honey, honey to bee. Okay, this is sad to say, this is a fact of life. Okay, I just realized that my camera is off. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, this is a fact of life. Here's the thing. If you want to attract top talents, first and foremost, what kind of top talents are you trying to attract? And what kind of top talents will attract to the people like you? Okay, so this is the part that's actually can be challenging. Okay, my take here is actually quite straightforward. First and foremost, once you identify what are you not good in, then you can, from here, you can identify what are the type of people that you want to hire. So if you want to hire the type of people, then you have to ask yourself, what are the type of people that you want to bring in can be attracted to the kind of things that can help to fulfill their needs. Okay, let me give you one very classic example. Most of the startups that we deal with falls into two categories. One, they have great idea, but they got nobody to build. Another type is they are able to build something, but they are not able to get someone to sell. So if that is the case, if you happen to be one of those, whether you can build or you can sell, this means that you probably have to attract the other party to come in. And when you want to attract the other party to come in, means that you have to first and foremost attract them. So how do you actually attract them? I think if you are someone who sell, you probably want to put yourself up, to be the guru, where people talk to you, people invite you to give talks, people put you into panel discussions, so that when you put yourself a bit more prominent, so the tech guys may actually look at you and say, hey, this is interesting. Maybe I want to find out more about this person. So can we actually match together? I think this can be one of those. The other part is that if you happen to be someone who can develop, someone who do a lot of programming, but you're not quite sure, how do you get people to sell? Okay, so this is the part that you can actually look into a hackathon. This is also the part that you can look at pitch day. You can look into demo day. Sit there, not just listening to the person who sells on the features and functions of their product or services, but look at the person who pitched. And then from there, you identify, is this the type of person, not necessarily that person, but is this the type of person that you want to gather? If it is, then you filter down. Once you filter down already, you will probably have a certain attributes that you want this type of people to be in your team. So from there, this is how you start your journey. That means you filter down what you do not are good in, then you look into those type of people that you want to bring in. So from there, then you start talking to people, get recommendations, get a word of mouth, and then get referral. So this is actually how you start the whole entire thing. Okay. How will you create a positive and a productive work environment? I think this is important, especially now we are in the era of I'm born in 1975. So, when we first came out to the workforce, the newspaper, the medias will always say that, hey, this is supposed to be the future. And but yet they have this very bad behavior. Guess what? They just keep repeating the same thing. So today, like your Gen Z, and then Gen Z have a certain behavior, Gen X has a certain behavior, baby boomer has a certain behavior. I think to really put things together, how do you really create a positive and a productive work environment? It's not going to be easy, because when you're in the startup environment, you have to understand, startup environment is a very harsh environment. Okay, people work for very long hours. Okay, and when you work for very long hours, means that you sleep very little, and people can get very emotional. So if you are talking about how to create a positive and a productive work environment, you may want to look into, you can probably pick one, but not the other two at the same time. That means you have to be prepared to give in. Like example, when you talk about productivity, okay, you want to do it in the productive environment, then you probably have to know that you may want to create a more positive environment by having the folks able to work from home, able to communicate, directly. That means that remove all the layers and let people talk directly. So this is actually one of the ways, so that things that there's a dispute, people are not happy about, they can bring it up, they can talk about it. That is one way of doing it. I don't have all the answers, but I think to start as a startup, you have to look into the 4 keys itself. Okay. The last one, executions. Okay, how to bring your product to market and grow your business. So this is very important. So here's the thing. Once you set up your team, once you have your product, okay, I personally don't believe that you have to go through, you have to jump through the fire, jump through the volcano, deep dive straight into the, into start from a river and then deep blue sea, and then have to go through the very hardship. Then you can actually consider it as a true blue entrepreneur or true blue startup founders. I don't believe in that. Why? As much as there's a lot of tools, they got your AI, you got a ChatGPT, you got a whole bunch of all this, how to bring your product to market and grow your business. There are actually people who've been there, done that, who already have the experience. Okay, do the shortcut way. If you're confident in your product, confident in your services, go straight and talk to the mentor, talk to the advisors, or talk to a consultant, or talk to a salesman. Talk to them. Ask them if they are you. Okay, if they were you, how will they do it? Learn from all these people. I'm not saying that you have to hire them, but I'm saying that when you throw a challenge out, get them to give you their insights. Because when they give you the insights, it actually gives you a very good perspective of how are you going to market it, how are you going to execute it. Okay, so A, B, and C. You can try to answer it yourself, or you can actually get someone who already been there, done that, buy them a cup of coffee, give them free lunch or whatsoever. Get insights. I believe by talking to 5 to 10 people, okay, who are experts in the market that you want to go to, they will be able to give you a lot of insights that probably only you're able to assemble them together and then give you a certain directions that this may be what I'm looking at. For companies, I know today is not talking about how to start a startup, but eventually, if you are funded and you have some money, my suggestion is hire a professional to do it. Okay, so number 4, the challenges of starting a startup. Okay, this is not easy. I think this is quite common, and you have to be mentally prepared. Lack of funding. In fact, most companies will face this challenge, okay, one way or another. Whether are you growing rapidly or are you not growing, you probably need to fire people, you need to hire people, you need to come up with a product, pay for licenses. Lack of funding is always one of the biggest challenges that a lot of companies face. Competitions, there will always be. If anyone is to present to me and say, hey, Paddy, my company is the one and only, my product is the one and only, there's actually no competition in the world. I think this itself is a red flag. Okay, if you're talking about competitions, are you talking about indirect competitions or are you talking about direct competitions? Because it is very rare that you have no competitors in the world. It's very rare. The third one is that lack of experience. Okay, truth to be told, if you're someone who just graduated, whether university students or polygrads, whatever, the experience that you have can only bring you so far. Okay, so it's common to face challenges because you lack of experience. So what do? So this is the part that you get people who knows you better, okay, people who knows that you can fit in together as a team. You may not necessarily have to start a startup on your own. You should always assemble a team and then fit into the people who can fulfill what you are lacking of and then put them together. This can be something that you may want to look into it. Long hours, to be very honest, running a startup, it means that the day you started a startup is probably the day you stop sleeping, okay, or you ever have a good sleep. It's going to be very tough. Most founders will find that 24 hours is actually not enough. 7 days a week is actually not enough. 22 man days a month is actually not enough. You have to accept it. If you're not willing to, then you will have a lot of challenges. And for people who run a startup, you also have to understand, best is that you get the support and the endorsement by your loved ones, because it's going to be very, very tough. Okay, some people give them 2 years, some people give themselves 3 years, they start running. And you realize that probably the first 2 years, you make a lot of mistakes. And then when it comes to the third year, you decided this is the way to go. But your loved one may not necessarily be there to wait for you. So you have to weigh, when you talk about long hours, is a sacrifice worth it? Okay. Last but not least, stress. I think everybody has stress, but it's just a matter of how you manage it. And it's not going to be easy. Running a startup will probably give you a stress level of at least 10 to 20 times. Okay, I'm not saying that if you're an employee, you don't have stress. Everybody has. But when you're at the top of making decisions of everything, running a startup, you will be stressed. And this is also where you differentiate yourself. If you're someone who just want to take the easy way out and not making the decisions, but yet all the employees, all your colleagues, all your co-founders are looking up at you and you don't make the decisions, you are going to crash and burn the company. So how can you overcome these challenges? I've given you quite a fair bit of information earlier, but in general, these are the few things that you can look at. First, you got to do your research. No matter what, spend some time to do your research. So when we talk about do your research, how do you do your research? My method of research is just use a phone. Okay, you can use Evernote, you can use Google Keep, you can use any kinds of applications as long as synchronize it, so that you can continue to do your research in front of a computer, on your phone, when you're on the move, whatever. Typically, what I will do is that anything that I see, I found out that's interesting, I will just keep a voice note. Okay, and then from the voice note, you can actually use a voice note, voice to text, and put this information, copy and paste, and put into your Evernote. Okay, can be one way of research. Talk to people, gather information, and of course, if you can, try not to talk to the same group of people all the time. Okay, so if you can, try to go out of your own circle, okay, out of your comfort, talk to people that may or may not be 100% related to what you are doing. Because why? You want them to give you different insights. Okay, and that will be interesting. Okay, number 2, be persistent. I think this one self-explained. If you give up too easily, I would suggest startup may not be suitable for you, because it takes a lot of persistency to do everything. Okay, surround yourself with good people. There have been a lot of sayings, especially recently, saying that you're the average of the 5 people that you mix with. Okay, so if you mix with good people, of course, the definition of good people is really up to you. Some people who smoke and drink and party can be considered as good people. Okay, some who drive, chase car, chase girls, chase men, chase whatever, they can be the good people. So bottom line here is what kind of business are you in? And you just need to define what is good for you, and you surround around them. Okay, and then last but not least, ask for help. Okay, I think the thing here is that truth to be told, a lot of startup founders always feel that it is shameful, or it's not so nice to ask for help. I think asking for help, there's nothing wrong, but you have to ask yourself, when you ask for help, are you willing to accept the advice? If you're not willing to accept the advice, perhaps the person that you ask for help from is probably not the right person, or perhaps you are the problem. Because there are always a lot of startups founders who always ask for help, but they themselves don't follow through, and they themselves keep having more doubts. I think one of those that we always face are those who ask for help from everyone, anyone, but everybody give them a lot of different answers, and then they ended up confused themselves. So my thing is, if you really want to ask for help, identify what can you give to the person also, because you do not want to have situations of asking help and then after they got nothing to contribute. Because if you got something to contribute back to the person, it becomes not one way, but it becomes a two-way where both parties can actually contribute into a good, deep discussions. And then from there, it's not about help anymore. It's probably turned into assistant. It probably turned into advice, and it probably turned into a mentorship. And preferably, if you already have some money, ask for help in a commercial way, because people are driven by money. Not that it's wrong, but if you're hiring a consultant or you're hiring, self-taught or whatever, they are paying for someone who had been there, done that, and try to give you as much information as possible. Okay, I know it may sound doom and gloom, okay, but there are actually a lot of rewards of starting a startup. Okay, personally, when I first started my startup, I don't even call it a startup. Okay, it was just more of like come up with a computer program. I was from Singapore Poly, material engineering, come up with programs and then figure things out. And they just think of, hey, can this actually make money? And in the end, I did make some money by creating websites, GeoCities, Netscape. If you know those, you're probably as well as me. Okay, so but there is always a reward, or there are always rewards of starting a startup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number one will always be the financial rewards. Of course, it may differ. It may be different from some of you guys, but I think for me personally, because I came from a poor family, so starting a startup, the drive for me then was actually the financial rewards. So when I first sold off my company, my very first startups, okay, of course there's a huge financial rewards, and from the financial rewards, I decide what do I want to do. But however, there are also others who say, hey, I want to have the rewards in the sense of personal satisfactions, meaning to prove that I cannot do this, but yet at the end of the day, I managed to do this. That can be a form of personal satisfaction. Okay, of course, impact on the world, especially when we talk about green technology, we talk about ESG, we talk about, discriminations, we talk about creating a certain impact to the world, such as hoping that we will create a better environment for the next generation. That can be one of those rewards. And of course, there are also others who believe in freedom to create. That means some of them may feel that, I'm working for someone else, I'm in the environment, as an employee, I'm not able to tap into what I think I'm capable of. So that's why I come out and start my own startup. But eventually, I'm given the freedom to create the business that I actually want. That can be one of those rewards. Okay. I think one of the things that I think is very important is that if you were to run a business or you to run a startup with pure intention of just to make money, I won't say that you won't be successful. In fact, some of this you may actually be very successful also. But I think although most of us only live once, okay, let me know if you manage to come back, okay, after death and everything. But I think the impact that startups have on the world is something that we cannot discount it. Okay, a lot of people want to create a startup maybe for themselves, but at the end of the day, take a look. We are living in a world that is shared by X numbers of populations. So if that is the case, why not see whether can you actually create an impact to the world also? Number one, when you run a startup, you create jobs. This is undeniable. Okay, you hired people, someone hired you, you create jobs. You innovate. Okay, someone may see it as, hey, there's nothing to invent anymore. You don't see it, you don't agree, you innovate. Okay, and you solve problems. Okay, people are willing to pay others who can solve problems. Okay, example. You are willing to pay some money for someone to pick up a food, pick up a dinner, pick up a lunch, and send it over to you. That your problem has been resolved by money, by having someone being paid to send the items, cook the items, and send it to you. Startups help to solve the problems. Okay, startups also make the world a better place. When we talk about startup, it can be a lot of things. Okay, it can be startups that actually talk about carbon credits. Okay, it can be startups that create a better way in terms of processes. Okay, it can actually make life a bit more easier, a bit better. So there are actually lots of impact that actually startups have for the world. My suggestion is, while you're planning to do a startup or planning to start a startup, maybe you want to spend a bit of time to look at how can you, as a business, actually have an impact on the world. So let's say, for example, for Blackstone, yes, we are a commercial company, we are a consultancy firm, but what kind of impact are we trying to create? For us, it's actually very simple. Okay, there will always be startup founders who are not quite sure. They themselves, while they are in the journey of starting a startup, running a startup, they face problems. They need help. We help them to solve. And there are also investors or family officers who invested in startups, invested in companies, invested in businesses, but they themselves need help. So that is one of the impact that we feel that at least we can help, we can resolve it so that the business do not collapse. So that when the business don't collapse, the people that they hired, they don't get redundant, they don't get retrenched, they don't get fired or whatsoever. So this can be the so-called impact that you maybe as a running a startup may want to look into it. Okay, so what's next? Okay, we're almost coming to an end already. So here's a task and a checklist. Okay, so you can take a look. What's next? Itself, develop a clear and concise value proposition, which I mentioned earlier. This is basically a summary. Okay, so you look into the people, product, process. People, the kind of people that you want to hire, the kind of value that you can bring, the kind of process that you can eventually add into it that people will be willing to buy from you. Research your target. This is very important. Okay, how do you actually target and position yourself? Whether is it local versus regional versus global? Create a business plan. Okay, I know there are a lot of theories, a lot of practices out in the world, lots of authors. I'm not saying that they are wrong, but for myself is I like to start with a business plan with one page. Okay, I'm not talking about making the size of fonts smaller. Okay, no, I'm talking about a standard one page. If you can squeeze, okay, everything in just for the sake of a business plan, then you're probably doing too many things. If I can come up with just one page, okay, of a business plan, put everything all in place nicely, easily, easy for you to read, easily for you to digest, that will be a great business plan. Once you create a business plan, put a timestamp onto the corners so that every 3 months, take out, every 3 months, take out and look at it. Hey, is there any changes? Is there any changes? And there should be changes because it's very difficult to have a business plan that doesn't change. Okay, look at what happened to a lot of the big business today. Look at IBM, look at Intel, look at Qualcomm, look at Huawei. I don't believe that they are still sticking back to the original business plan. There could have things that have been pivoted. There could have things that actually been enhanced. 4, 5, 6. Okay, my suggestion, if you are going to set up a legal structures, always go for the private limited. When you go for a private limited, it simply means that, okay, you are safe from a legal perspective. Okay, if you're not quite sure, talk to a lawyer. Okay, don't put your name up front, saying that everything is all under you, because sometimes business can change the direction. Okay, register your business. I think this is quite straightforward. Okay, number 6, set up your business finances. If you're working now and you intend to come out to start on your own business, my suggestion is minimally you should have 12 months savings. Okay, I know it sounds a bit crazy. Okay, if you can have 12 months, great for you. Why? Because things may happen along the way. When you're running a business, it's never easy. Your parents may be sick, your kids may be sick, maybe things happen. So if possible, try to have 12 months or at least have access to 12 months of finance, money, or whatsoever. If you happen to be, I would suggest, let's say you happen to be you have Bitcoins. Okay, don't bet on it unless you're talking about catching it up today. Then you probably put it in and then use that as to finance a business. Otherwise, you may not want to expect, hey, some guru said that my Bitcoin will probably jump to 65,000 US dollar by the end of 12 months, 6 months later. Don't. Build a team. Okay, this one is quite straightforward. These are the few people that you definitely need. Someone who can sell, sales, marketing, tech, support, and ops. Okay, some of them should overlap each other. Okay. Number 8, develop your product or service. Identify exactly, are you doing a B2B, business to business, or business to consumer, or even business to government? Number 9, create a marketing plan and sales, create a marketing and sales plan. Answer this: who, what, when, where, why, how. Okay, answer as much as you can. If you can, set it up in a PowerPoint so that each and every of the page comes with a who, comes with a what, comes with a how. Every one of them, so that you can actually put it very clear and then you can make changes to it. As I said, if you can, put all this online so that you can make changes as you go. Okay, launch your business. Yeah, just remember you have to keep pivoting. because without pivoting your business, it becomes stagnant. And when you become stagnant, other competitors identify who you are, what you are doing, and they can overtake you easily. Okay, I'm coming to the end of it. Take action, ask yourself. Okay, these are very practical questions. I don't have answer for you because only you have the answer to it. Do I have a deep understanding of the problem I'm trying to solve with my startup? If the answer is no, then you need to dig deeper. Okay. If it's a yes, then you identify how will people pay for it? Is this big enough for you to solve? Am I passionate about my startup idea and willing to put it in the hard work and long hours required to make it successful? As I mentioned, the moment you start your startup, you probably have to be mentally prepared. There won't be any time to sleep. There won't be any time for anything else. So you have to ask yourself, passionate is one thing, but are you practical enough? Are you smart enough? Do I have the necessary skills and experience to execute on my startup plan? I can tell you most likely no, because not everybody has the experience. You may have the skill set, but you may not have the experience. So it is always good to start something, figure it out, keep figuring out, and make mistake. Okay, it's just like when you first started walking, you started running. Okay, unless you're like, I don't know, stand up and then you start running almost immediately. Otherwise, you need to figure it out. It's not going to be easy. Okay, but the reward probably can be good for you, can be big for you. Am I able to build and lead a high-performing team? So this all goes back to you as an individual. Look at your characters, look at your personalities. Some people are just not meant to lead people. Some people are just suitable more to be led. So you have to ask yourself, if you want to be the CEO, if you want to be the founder, want to be the co-founder, you want to lead a high-performance team, you have to ask yourself, can you actually be there and be ready to do it? It's not easy. Am I comfortable with risk and uncertainty? Okay, if you're someone who has, tried to do a business on your own, then look at the push and the pull. Are you using this as a startup as a temporary measure until you get the next job? Okay. Are you actually looking to really run the startup and putting everything all on the table and then run for it? You have to ask yourself, are you comfortable? It is okay not to be comfortable, and it is okay to be uncomfortable also. Okay. Next question. Am I able to learn and adapt quickly? It's tough. Okay, because when you're running a startup, things don't happen, okay, in a slow-mo. Things happen if you're watching a video, it's probably 3 times faster, 10 times faster, and you have to make a decisions. And when you make the decisions and it may be wrong, you have to live with it, probably fall down a bit, cry a bit, wipe your tears, and then you can continue. It's not easy also. Okay. So last few. Am I resilient and able to bounce back from setbacks? Okay, it's not easy. So I'm not trying to dissuade you saying, hey, you should not run all this, but these are very real questions. Because even if you have the answer, yes, when you are facing with it, it may not be that relevant or that prevalent to you that, hey, this is the problem that Patty was talking about. I have to be ready. It may not be. My take here is take it as it is and start off something and then learn about it, and figure things out. Okay. Do I have a strong support of friends, family and mentors who can help me through the challenges of starting a business? If you don't have, join a program. Join some program. Okay. Whether it's a paid program or is it a free program, figure it out because it's a very, very long journey. You need smart people to help you along the way. And that can be coming from friends, can be coming from families or mentors or even consultants or whatever. But you definitely need people because why? None of us are smarter than everybody. So everybody will need some help. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. This one I already covered. At least 12 to 18 months. Well, if you can do 12 months, that'll be great. Okay. If you can do 18 months, that'll be best. Okay. Last one. Am I mentally and emotionally ready to be a startup founder? Start one and you'll find out how challenges can be resolved when you're mentally strong or you're emotionally strong. It is draining. It's not easy. Even though I myself, I invested a few companies, I started a few companies, I sold a few companies. Running a startup is still giving me a lot of thrills, give me a lot of challenges, give me a lot of fun. So are you mentally ready? I think it really depends. Start one and then you figure it out. Okay. Last but not least, take action, get help. There's no more slide. You can actually look into startupstorm.asia. It's free. Sign up. Of course, there's a premium service. This is how we sustain the business. StartupStorm is one of the products from this Blackstorm Consulting. Blackstorm Consulting focus on consulting, scaling companies in Southeast Asia, whereas StartupStorm is basically a platform. It's a LMS, learning management system. Go in, take a look to see some of the contents, and then to figure it out. If you think that, hey, it's good, go ahead and pay for it. If you think that it's not good, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Okay, so now I'll stop sharing. And then if you have any, okay, so I'll stop here first. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And then if I can answer, I will definitely try to answer it here. Okay, you can actually type it out into the chat box if you like to, as some of you guys already put it in. So let me just scroll up first. Okay, one question. Any web developer here that willing to help startup can PM me. Okay, so Oliver is doing a plug, so go ahead. Okay, at what stage we should realize that our startup business can no more longer, sorry, it jumped. Okay, can no more longer survive or still can go forward? Okay, good question. Thanks. I think someone replied. Okay, this is my personal advice. So at what stage that you realize, okay, first and foremost, when you wake up the next day, is it still exciting for you? If it's not exciting for you, then it's probably time to relook into everything. Okay, exciting doesn't mean that it always has to be good news. Exciting can be bad news. That means you are willing to look into the problem and you're willing to solve it, you're willing to challenge it. So for those who are not quite sure, I'm actually referring to the chat box down here. Okay, if it's not something that is exciting anymore, then you have to ask yourself, what happened? Okay, if it's not something that excites you again and again and again, then probably you have to look into it. Should I actually solve the thing that is not making me exciting? Okay, is it because I'm bogged down by financial? Is it because I got lots of personnel HR problem? Is it that my product cannot sell? Okay, so here's the thing. If you are the owner, of course you can make the decisions. But my take here is sit down, talk to the very folks that has been with you since day one. Talk to them. You'll be surprised. Actually, a lot of answers can be found within your own team without having to go out to look for external parties to tell you what you did wrong or what you have done wrong. Okay. So, okay, of course, there are different opinions, but if you think that this is not something that is exciting anymore, and even though you are still making profits, you may want to consider taking a step back and then having a successor to take over. Okay, another one. When you mention find other people with talents that I lack, do you hire them as employee or as a partner before starting up? Okay, good question. It can be a mix of everything. Because here's the thing, when you look for talents, talents may not necessarily means that you just hire someone and then that someone can be a hired talent that you depend on. It may not be. Why? I think this is precisely why we have a probation period. When you join a company, certain positions give you 3 months probation. Certain positions will give you 6 months probations. So this is if you are looking into as an employee per se, then the probation will probably help you to figure out whether is this person suitable or not. Because we are all paid to solve a problem. We are not paid to create problems. So if you're looking for a talent, it means that the person who comes in has to be the one to help you to solve the problem. If you hire this person at, let's say, for example, at $1, and he or she comes in and is able to contribute more than $1, he is a talent. If he or she comes in where you pay $1, but he's creating problem that you probably have to pay another $2 to solve the problem that he created, or that means he, in other words, not giving you the $1 value, then it's probably not a talent that you want to keep. Okay, that is more on the hiring side. But if you're asking me about, if you want to look for a partner, then naturally you can actually look into someone that you want to hire. But because startup, okay, in a startup ecosystem, the lifespan is actually very short. This also means that it's very common for people to join. Less than a year, they quit, they join another company. It's very common. So you have to be mentally prepared that if you're looking for a partner, do you want to get a partner to convert from an employee to become a partner. Okay, I'm not saying that it's a high risk. It's not. It's just that you have to understand the environment, because sometimes when they join you as a company, as a startup, they come in with risk assessment, and it may not be suitable for them. For, let's say, case in point, the Blackstone Group CEO of Blackstone, Jesslyn Bay, Jeslinbay. You can Google her. She's in LinkedIn. She was actually my intern many years ago. So she joined as an intern. I think for whatever reasons, she came back to join as a part-time. And then eventually she graduated. My understanding is one of the top students in the school, or at least that's what she said. Okay, so she joined, and then she became a full-time. And within a very short period of time, we spun off a company. She don't turn into an employee anymore. She turned into a partner. And then eventually, over time, she's now the group CEO of Blackstone Consulting. So this is how you do it. Okay, how do you validate ideas? Okay, the short answer, because I can't answer too many things. Okay, the short answer of it is that definitions of validate. The validate means that, to me personally, it depends on, is someone willing to pay for it? Is someone willing to buy whatever that you're going to produce, whatever the solutions that you're going to produce, whatever products that you're going to sell? If someone is not willing to pay for it, then this idea may not be good enough for someone to buy. But I'm not saying that it's not good enough for you to launch a business. It's not. It's just that some ideas may probably need to be refined. So when you talk about validations, first and foremost, my take here is that go straight to the potential customers that you think that they will pay. Don't spend time asking your friends and families, because your friends and families will probably cushion the negativity by telling you, yes, they will do it, they will buy. But truth to be told, how many of your services will actually your friends come and use your service? May not be. So let's say if you one day you decide, hey, I'm going to sell, let's say for example, I'm going to sell low calorie, organic or whatsoever, plant-based, there is no whatever. Okay, you are going to target, okay, I'm going to target all the vegans, I'm going to target all the vegetarians. Then don't look for a friend who is a vegetarian, don't look for a buddy who is a vegan. Go hang around in some supermarkets, hang around in some shops. Just ask them, hey, if I were to create this, will you buy? Yes, how much? Stuff like that. So from there, you can actually validate, at least on the high level, find out exactly, is this something that someone will be willing to? If it's not, then take a step back. Okay. Wow, I've got so much question. Okay, as a startup, what is the best time that we can open up for investors? Oh, as a best time. Okay. There are three types of investors. First, investors who invest in you as an individual. They believe in you and they believe that you can lead the company. That's the best time. Second type of investors, the investors who believe in your company, meaning that the projections of a company, your sales, your numbers are good, and they believe that you put in $1, they can probably get 3 times back or 5 times back. So that's a good time. The third is that, okay, sad to say, is that you think, okay, that you have a great product and you think that you manage to convince certain investors. Okay, the third type of investors are probably someone who do not know much about what you are doing, but they see from their own perspective. It can be a listed company, it can be a family office, but it's part of their mandate that they feel that, hey, you know what, everybody is now talking about AI. Okay, I may not be able to invest in the top AI company, but at least can I look for someone who is actually doing something similar? Okay, so that can be a trend. There are investors who actually invest based on trend. There are investors who actually invest based on potential, and there are also investors who invest in you as an individual. So I think there's no really best time, but it really depends on how do you position yourself. I think that's most important. Any advice on how to split equity with co-founders? Okay, very simple. No matter how you split, there should be someone who owns the major. So it can be 33. So 33 plus 33, the other one should be 34. So there should be always someone who owns the larger portion of it. Why? So that he or she can make the decision. Otherwise, I don't believe in equal. Reason is, if let's say there are 2 of us, if my partner get 50% and I get 50%, sure, nothing wrong. But when it comes to situations where somebody has to make the tough decisions, okay, everybody will be so polite that you cannot make any decision. So I will prefer that someone will have to own the bigger chunk of it. Okay, if you are the one who start the business, it doesn't mean that you have to be the one to own the business in a larger share. Okay, why? You actually basically depends on what is this whole company about. if the whole company, okay, like example like Blackstone don't have physical product. We don't have, we don't manufacture products. Ours is just services. So we help companies, we structure them, we scale them. Okay, we create programs, we charge them money. We scale them within 50 days, we scale them within 100 days. So there's actually no physical products. But if that is the case, then question will be, how do you actually put it in? So if this idea, let's say the idea is from me, does it mean that I own the biggest chunk? It may not necessarily, because why? You're talking about a marathon. You're not talking about 100-meter sprint. You're not talking about 100 meters. No, probably someone is just run, finish, and then that's it. But as a business, you're going to look into a much larger, longer longevity. So it is always fair to have someone to talk about it. I think one of the biggest problems with us Asians is that we tend to be too polite. Okay, and if anyone who's step up and say, hey, I want a bigger share, I think that's also inappropriate. So it's always best to go through a few rounds of discussions and then decide. Why? Because you do not want to have a situations where you're unhappy about it, and then you bear so much grudges about it over the 1%, 2% or 10% or 5% that you start to withdraw. Like I mentioned earlier, if I were to pay you $1 and you've given me $1, I'll probably continue to hire you. But if I were to give you $1 salary and then you give me $2 contributions, okay, I will definitely promote you. But anything less than $1, I will put you aside. So you don't want to have a situations of equity where someone has equity but they are not doing anything, and then it creates a lot of tension. Okay. Okay, as someone with bold ideas but with little to no business acumen, how do we approach team for possible collaborations or pitch but protect our idea from being stolen? Okay, so there are actually 2-3 parts of this. First and foremost, anyone can have an idea. I think idea is good, not that it's bad. But the thing is that if you have an idea, you still need to execute. And if you execute, you still need to make mistake. And when you make mistake, you still need to adjust. After you adjust, you need to pivot. After you pivot already, you still need to attract people to buy, people to invest. So that will probably answer your questions on one. The other part of it is, if you don't have business acumen, the next question here is, can you learn? Can you learn business acumen? Okay, I don't really have a big answer for you, but I do know that practice makes perfect. If you go out and keep practicing, okay, not on your friends, okay, keep practicing on others, on networking. No, you must have the guts. If you don't dare to step up, then you probably don't have business acumen. Is that true? I don't think. I think everybody is a salesman. Whether are you a technical guy or you're a product guy, you're a developer, everybody is a salesman because all of us need to sell something. You want to get your girlfriend to go to a dinner. You want to get your boyfriend to watch a movie. You have to sell. You have to sell them, not force them. You have to tell them, hey, this movie I heard is actually pretty good. You are doing a salesman. So business acumen is not something that you can just come with it. So some people come with it, some people do not. But what I'm trying to say here is that business acumen, you can practice. Okay, I'm not asking you to fake it, but if you interact with more people, pick the type of business acumen that you think that is more comfortable for you. Some people like to enter into a big room, very grand, and everybody look at them. That can be one kind of business acumen. So that why? They put themselves out front for people to come and talk to them rather than they go and talk to others. Okay, I'm one of those type of people. Okay, and then another type is that how do you approach team? Honey to bee, bee to honey. Okay, personally, I don't like to go to talk to someone and then try to attract them to come to my team. I prefer not to because it's very time consuming and I'm quite confident of what I can contribute. So typically, I would like to put myself up into a panel discussions, to give a talk in schools, in universities, even in the private sectors, volunteer, give a talk. And then from there, you can actually attract people to come in. That will actually make the process easier for me. Okay. Okay, I think there's another 4. I'll just quickly run through. When deciding on the equity split, what are the factors that you want to consider to see who gets how much? Okay, I already answered that one. Someone has to own the bigger share, someone has to own the smaller share. And regarding the contributions, think of it as a marathon. Don't think of it as a temporary. Why? Okay, it's very simple. When you build a house, okay, you don't want to spend too much money on the top, and then you forget to invest money on the foundation. If the foundation gives way, the whole building is going to collapse. So be fair to anyone, everyone. If you think that you deserve this percent, take it. If you think that the other party deserves that percent, give it. I think that's the simplest, easiest way, okay? I need help for hired foreign workers. With the rapid changes and the government, I'm having problems qualifying. Don't mind paying for consultation. What should I do? Okay. If you're based here in, I don't know, I mean, based on your name, Paul, okay, I guess you're probably a Singaporean or even Malaysians. I think there are actually a lot of government, setting up with platforms to do that. In fact, earlier on, we were in a meeting with E2I, E2, number 2, and the I. You can actually search if you're Singaporean. I mean, if you're based in Singapore, E2I actually helps companies to do matchmakings and all that, and it's free. Okay, so this is one of those. If you want to hire foreign workers, I'm not quite sure, but probably you can actually talk to MOM, Ministry of Manpower, because there's an EP, there's a certain criteria, certain categories that you can probably hire. Yeah. So anyway, you got my email address. If you need any help, just feel free, or you just ping me over the LinkedIn. Is it wise to offer? Okay, coming to the end already. Yeah, sweet Talia. Okay, is it wise to offer equity to some of the talent we try to acquire? Yes, of course. It's always good, but don't offer now. Okay, why? Just like any other probations, because you are giving a part of your company. So if you're going to give a part of a company, it simply means that it's just like giving a corner or a piece of, space for your for someone to come in and join you in your comfort zone. Okay, in the space that you feel safe. Yes, if you don't have enough funds to compensate them, but minimally it should be something that both parties agree. So for example, you can always offer X%, but the X% have to be proven. Just like any, think of it, don't think of it too complicated. Think of it as just like in any probation. Okay, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, whatsoever. Talk and negotiate until both parties are agreeable. And then you can even stagger the percentage. Today can be X%, tomorrow can be X plus Y, and then X plus Y plus Z. You can actually offer that. Okay. In dealing with many startups through the years, what's your tipping point to exit or sell a company? Okay. I sold quite a few companies, but my method is a bit different. I started with one, mobile security, sold it off, make some money, and then I invested in some other companies. So in some of the companies I invested, I usually don't own more than 5%, skin in the game, and then I help them to scale their business. So I structure their business, I scale their business, people, product, process, and then eventually I create values for the company, the value propositions. So once I create values for the company, I will bring them overseas, which is typically Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, all this. So I bring them overseas into a few markets, and then the valuation of the company goes up. And then eventually, okay, there may be someone who comes in and say, okay, I just want to invest in this company so that I have access to these few markets directly. So I think when that happens, that will be my tipping point. And or another method is that you want to look into the valuation of the company. If the valuation of the company hits a certain amount and you own a certain percentage and you're willing to sell that certain percentage, that can be the target that you look at. Let's say, for example, the company valuated 100 million USD, Sing dollar, rupiah, peso, whatever, example. 100 million, you happen to own 5%, and out of the 5%, you decided to keep 1%. So therefore, you want to sell 4%. So theoretically, 4% of 100 million, that may be a benchmark that I want to target to sell. So I will create the value to hit that amount. Okay, then I will sell. So that can be one way of looking into it. Okay, no question here. Okay, Ken. Thank you very much, and I hope that everybody enjoy this session. By all means, please go to this startup storm, register yourself, and we will be having 2nd, 3rd, 4th. There will be quite a handful of those guys coming in. So if it's useful, please feel free, and then put yourself into the mailing list, and we'll get back to you guys. Okay, thank you very much, and have a nice day. Thank you.